Good afternoon, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your second detailed forecast update today on the rainfall situation up in far North Queensland. A significant severe weather event is forecast to unfold here, with up to 1,500 millimetres of rainfall forecast for the next week or week and a half across parts of the Cassowary coast and into the north central regions of Queensland. I'm going to be giving you a very detailed forecast overview of what is expected in terms of rainfall, when it's going to be arriving, and total rainfall accumulations, and also how to prepare for this system. So if that's your cup of tea, then stick around for the full video update, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get stuck straight into things. This is a current look at the system here. You can see it is a semi-defined low pressure system. It'd be a bit of a stretch to call this a full-blown tropical low at this time, but that's what it is, and it is rapidly developing. It is situated well to the offshore of Cairns. It's actually over about Willis Island at this time, and it is starting to rotate around a little bit. Now, you could think of this as the same tropical low that went into Queensland and provided that deluge for the Cassowary coast over the last couple of days, and it's just heading out to sea now to kind of refuel. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what it's going to be doing, and sure is, it is going to refuel, that's for sure. It's expected to pick up a lot of moisture over the coming couple of days, and you can see here, as we push this forecast forward, you can see that the showers begin to develop pretty much from right now across the central Queensland coastline. And in fact, that's where the heaviest falls are going to be over the coming 2 days or so. You can see showers from this low pressure system swinging around into the central Queensland coastline, specifically for locations towards the south of Townsville, along the central Queensland coastline, Eyre, Bowen, Hamilton Island, the Whitsundays, Proserpine, right down towards Mackay. Heavy showers expected throughout the course of tonight, turning in towards brief periods of intense rainfall actually throughout tonight into early tomorrow morning and into tomorrow afternoon around the Bowen area through the Whitsundays. Proserpine expecting some really heavy falls here and there, and then intense rainfall also expected to materialise tomorrow afternoon around the Eyre area, extending in towards tomorrow evening around the Townsville area. So just to recap, those heavy showers expected to begin materialising very shortly for the central Queensland coastline into this afternoon. We're expecting heavy falls around the Whitsundays, and then tomorrow morning it's going to be Whitsundays and Bowen. Tomorrow afternoon it'll be up towards Eyre, and then tomorrow evening, as this low pressure system gets itself closer towards the coastline, it's going to be Townsville's turn to cop some heavy showers, tending towards rainfall at times. And we could be seeing 24-hourly rainfall accumulations along the central Queensland coastline tomorrow at around 150 millimetres, with peak 1-hourly accumulations from the heaviest of showers at around sort of that 50 or 60 millimetre mark. So certainly some very heavy falls are expected. Moving this forecast forward, you can see that low pressure system crossing the coastline sometime Friday night into Saturday morning. We're going to flick this over to the Access forecast model here. It's basically saying the exact same thing, but it does paint a little bit more of an accurate picture in terms of rainfall, considering it is a more aggressive forecast here. But you can see that low pressure system on Friday night and Saturday morning moving in towards the North Queensland coastline, somewhere around the Cairns area or between Cairns and Innisfail. Now, that immediately sounds like some really bad news for the Cairns area in the wake of 400 millimetres at the racecourse over the last couple of days. So it certainly sounds quite scary for Cairns, but considering that this isn't going to be a fully fledged tropical cyclone or even a fully formed tropical low by the time it gets itself over the coastline, it's not going to be organised enough to have rainfall around all four sides of this system. So anywhere immediately south of where the low pressure system makes its crossing of the coast, which will be around the Cairns area, is where those really heavy falls are going to be occurring. And at this time, it doesn't look like Cairns is going to be receiving those really heavy falls by the looks of things. It's going to be pretty much exclusively for locations further towards the south of Cairns. So just to recap there, continuing through Friday night into Saturday morning, those heavy showers of the central Queensland coastline tending to heavy rainfall north of Townsville, and that heavy rainfall will pipe up through Saturday morning and continue right through Saturday, reaching a peak actually Saturday evening and remaining at that peak in terms of some really intense falls being funneled ashore Saturday night right through Sunday. And you can see as we push this forecast through Sunday that intense rainfall continuing for the Cassowary coast between Cairns down towards Ingham, right down towards Townsville actually through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and even right out towards Tuesday, when it looks like this low pressure system will finally get itself offshore once again, and this rainfall will begin to ease off throughout Tuesday, the 4th of February for the North Queensland area. But that is 4 days of intense rainfall, pretty much a consistent block of intense rainfall across the North Queensland coastline. So the rainfall numbers, which we'll get to in just a second, are going to be huge. I would just like to break this down in a little bit more detail. So like I said, the showers and storms continuing for the central Queensland coastline right from today through tomorrow into Saturday and Sunday as well. They're going to be heavy at times, especially around the Proserpine area, where we could be seeing up towards 500 millimetres over the next 5 days around the Proserpine area, just because of the showers are going to be streaming ashore there. Throughout Saturday evening, the showers are going to contract further north, and it's going to be mainly showers exclusive for locations north of Eyre through Townsville, and then further north into the central Queensland area, where we're expecting those showers to tend towards very heavy rainfall. And you can see for locations between Cairns down towards Ingham, specifically between Innisfail down towards Ingham, we're expecting an intense line of rainfall to occur right through Saturday, from Saturday morning through Saturday evening and into Sunday morning. And you can see that rainfall not moving at all throughout the course of Sunday. It's just going to be steady, consistent, and heavy throughout the Cassowary coast here around the Innisfail and the Tully area. So expect some big time rainfall accumulations there. It's also reciprocated between other forecast models, which means there's great model congruency here. There's basically no discrepancies right out towards Sunday. In the forecast models, EastMLBF calling for that intense rainfall across the North Queensland area. Just a little bit more of a southerly bias by the looks of things. The GFS forecast has been pretty much on board with the very heavy rainfall around the Cassowary coast as well. I mean, not so much reciprocated on their latest forecast because it is a lower resolution forecast model, but the Access and the GFS, the two most reliable forecast models and the two forecast models that I would trust the most actually with the forecast, especially when you're talking about tropical forecasts for North Queensland. It's saying that this heavy rainfall is set in stone now for locations between Innisfail down towards Ingham. So specifically Innisfail down towards Ingham is where the heaviest falls are expected, but we're expecting isolated periods of heavy rainfall north of Innisfail and south of Ingham as well, right down towards Townsville. In fact, heavy rainfall expected there. So the chance of flooding is going to be north of Rollingstone, right up through Ingham, Lucinda, Cardwell, Tully, Babinda, Innisfail, and then north of Innisfail up to about Fishery Falls. This is kind of the flood zone here, and anywhere a little bit further inland as well, specifically around the Cardwell and the Ingham area. Once you go further inland, that flooding risk doesn't really drop off there just because the rainfall is expected to be penetrating quite far inland. And in terms of rainfall numbers, we're going to be looking at least 250 millimetres a day for both Friday, Saturday and Sunday around the Cardwell area. Maybe slightly less on Friday around the Cardwell area, maybe about 150 millimetres there, but Saturday expect 300 millimetres around Cardwell and Ingham, another 300 millimetres possible on Sunday, and then dropping off slightly on Monday and Tuesday, where only in quotation marks about 200 millimetres is expected. But considering that's the minimum amount of rainfall that we're expecting, 300, 300, 200 and 200, do the math on that, we're looking at 1,000 millimetres, so four-figure rainfall accumulations aren't going to be isolated, they're going to be widespread around the Ingham and the Cardwell area. And whilst we're talking about those rainfall accumulations, let's just jump straight into the numbers right now. So this is a look at the next week. This is 7-day rainfall accumulations here across the Cassowary coast and into the north central Queensland area. So starting from the north and heading south as we normally do, there will be some showers around the Daintree rainforest extending up towards Cooktown. So again, rainfall accumulations up there over the next week. They're not going to be that heavy, but still about 2 to 250 millimetres is expected, with isolated pockets up to about 350 millimetres around Mossman and into the Daintree rainforest there. Now, that's on top of some pretty significant rainfall accumulations that they've already picked up. So again, 250 millimetres coming through in a couple of days from heavy showers will cause some minor riverine flooding in those areas. It's going to be locations south of Cairns where the real rainfall is going to be picking up. Now, Cairns is still a little bit of a wild card for me at this time. They could either pick up a lot of rainfall or they could pick up comparatively low amounts of rainfall. They're guaranteed to pick up 150 millimetres around Cairns and probably a little bit more the further south you go from Cairns. But in terms of the really heavy rainfall accumulations, by the looks of things, they are going to remain out of the Cairns area. The reason why I'm a little bit uncertain at this time is because the rainfall is going to be coming in from the northeast after about Sunday, and if a line of showers moves through Cairns, which is entirely possible at this time, especially if the low pressure system is slightly further north than what the forecast models are suggesting, then Cairns could end up with about 400 or 500 millimetres of rainfall between Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on Cairns at this time. It's on the cusp of being a chance of receiving some very heavy rainfall, but at this time, not overly likely right now. I think they're definitely going to pick up 150 millimetres and up to about 250 or 300 millimetres, but any rainfall on top of that is looking unlikely and would be exceptional basically as well. Further south of Cairns, though, it's going to be Fishery Falls and then those locations further south, Belend and Kerr looking at about 650 millimetres, Innisfail at least 850 millimetres, Babinda as well, probably pushing up to about 1,000 millimetres of rainfall there, just considering their more exposed nature there. Tully should pick up about 1,000 millimetres as well. I'm expecting some of the locations around like South Johnston and Mission Beach to receive at least 1,000 millimetres as well, probably closer to about 1,250 millimetres. And you can see on this forecast here, there are spot accumulations around the Tully area up to about 1,700 or 1,800 millimetres. Now, this is what the Access was calling for in Tropical Cyclone Jasper when that came through the Queensland area, and it absolutely nailed it. And to be honest, considering the setup that we have here, I have no reason to doubt this, and we do have precedents for this forecast as well. So rainfall accumulations, some very isolated totals up to 1,800 millimetres between now right out towards the 5th or the 6th of February is entirely possible. That would be the absolute worst case scenario. Of course, that'd be the highest end amount of rainfall that we would be seeing. And to be honest, I reckon it'd happen a little bit further south of Tully, maybe into some of the ranges here outside of Cardwell. I'd be seeing the absolute worst of rainfall accumulations up to about that 16 to 17 or even 1,800 millimetre mark, but at this time again we'll have to just wait and see on how the rainfall does pan out here. We'll have a very definitive answer on what's expected on Saturday and Sunday as this rainfall does start to come through along the coastline. We're still just a little bit uncertain on what exactly the rainfall is going to look like, especially once it materialises on the radar. We're still just a little bit uncertain on what is expected entirely in terms of the nitty-gritty numbers, but the base of the fact of the matter is we're expecting at least 4-figure rainfall accumulations around the Tully area. Same deal for Cardwell. I don't see a world where they pick up less than 1,000 millimetres. Ingham as well on this forecast. They're being suggested to receive slightly less rainfall, about that sort of 600 or 700 millimetre mark here. But considering the bulk of the rainfall is going to be around the coastline, and Ingham is very close to the coastline, they're not really protected either from the rainfall that's going to be coming ashore here, especially from the east towards the northeast. They've got no protection whatsoever, and they are backed up against some mountain ranges in a nice valley. So I reckon Ingham's going to be picking up about 1,000 millimetres as well, which will be just disastrous for the town for reasons that I'll get to in just a few moments. Lucinda about 1,000 millimetres expected too. Further south down towards Rollingston, at least 700 millimetres there. Townsville is a bit of a wild card depending on what showers come through, especially over the coming couple of days. I don't really see a world where Townsville picks up less than 400 millimetres. They're certainly going to get some really tropical rainfall and also some damaging winds accompanying those showers as well as that tropical low begins to develop over the next few days. But I do reckon Townsville could get anywhere between the 400 and the 550 or 600 millimetre mark. Most likely on the lower side of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up 600 millimetres of rainfall. Very unlikely they'll pick up anything over that as well, especially considering the rainfall around the Townsville area should begin to ease off come around Sunday night into Monday morning. Air will pick up about 300 millimetres from showers coming through in the area there. Bowen should pick up about 350 to 400 millimetres as well from showers. Proserpine, I think there's going to be a bit of a runaway here, especially considering they've picked up 150 millimetres over the past 12 hours. I reckon Proserpine will end up with about 650 or 700 millimetres of rainfall. That will cause some pretty significant flooding in the area as well, so we're going to have to keep a very close eye on the Proserpine weather forecast, considering they are expecting dramatically higher amounts of rainfall, and that's all going to be from the showers coming through over the next 3 or 4 days from the southeast towards the easterly directions. They're just going to be funneled through here, through Halliday Bay and into the Whitsundays, and Proserpine's going to be the unlucky place that kind of gets those clouds just wrung dry over those locations. Hamilton Island should get 300 millimetres. Yalborough and Gargett should also get about 300 to 350 millimetres. I reckon Mackay will pick up about 150 to 250 millimetres, and then anywhere south of that, the forecast looking a little bit uncertain for rainfall, but still 100 millimetres right down towards Ogmore. Anywhere south of that, Rockhampton, Gladstone, they're not really expecting anything in the way of significant rainfall, just a few showers streaming ashore over the coming couple of days. But yeah, some really significant rainfall accumulations. This is by far the heaviest rainfall that I've seen on the axis forecast for continental Australia since Tropical Cyclone Jasper of nearly a year and 2.5 months ago or something like that. So yeah, about 14.5 months ago, Tropical Cyclone Jasper came through. And I mean, it's kind of only, far North Queensland's only just recovered now from Tropical Cyclone Jasper. Thankfully, the bulk of the rainfall from Jasper came through between the Port Douglas area down towards the Cairns. So they did pick up some really good rainfall around the Tully area as well, but this rainfall is just a little bit too far south to be kind of over the Tropical Cyclone Jasper, the worst impacted areas from Cyclone Jasper. But I reckon you could draw some very good comparisons between what rainfall is coming through here and Tropical Cyclone Jasper, and as such, near record or record levels of rainfall and water are expected to be moving through the far North Queensland area, especially for locations between Innisfail down towards Rollingston. I'm also expecting some near record river level heights as a result of this rainfall, especially beginning Saturday night through Sunday and Monday, with those river levels only beginning to recede on about Tuesday or so. But you can see the major forecast models not really suggesting this rainfall to ease off until at least Tuesday morning by the looks of things. The rainfall will then begin to pull away properly from the Queensland coastline through Tuesday, Wednesday, and there will still be a few showers here right throughout the remainder of next week, throughout Thursday and Friday as well, which will keep adding to those rainfall accumulations. But beyond about Tuesday or Wednesday, the rainfall is going to be a lot lighter. So the river levels expected to peak Sunday night into Monday morning, and then they will begin to recede by about Tuesday morning. But I do expect a lot of locations to be cut off pretty solidly from this rainfall event here. So let's go through the impacts from this weather event north to south. Now, considering the Daintree rainforest has already received some pretty significant rainfall from the last rainfall event that came through there, any rainfall, especially from heavy showers, will cause some significant flooding or flash flooding in those areas. So again, make sure you are prepared for it to be cut off. If you do live in an isolated area around the Daintree rainforest as well, make sure you've got enough supplies. You'll have time to get them today from Cairns as well and from other population centres in the area, and you should still have access around the Mareeba area as well from this rainfall event, even if it does cut off the roads between Cairns up towards Port Douglas. But yeah, certainly take this weather event quite seriously. Even though you're not expected to be in the bulk of the rainfall, you will still pick up some good rainfall accumulations. Even for far North Queensland, 350 millimetres over a couple of days is some heavy stuff. Cairns, I don't expect Cairns to be inundated with rainfall as like what they were with Tropical Cyclone Jasper. I still expect a lot of rainfall and some really big puddles and probably some flash flooding to occur around the Cairns area, and maybe even some riverine flooding as well, coinciding with a high tide on Saturday night and into Sunday morning when the low pressure system will be over Cairns. Some minor coastal flooding is expected there, but that's kind of the worst case scenario. If you flood on pretty much everything around the Cairns area, then I would prepare adequately for this event here and prepare probably for a Category 1 strength tropical cyclone landfall, because that's basically what it's going to feel like around the Cairns area, at least immediately south of Cairns. Start sandbagging if you live in a really low-lying area. Inland around Atherton, Mareeba and Ravenshoe, nothing too crazy in the way of significant rainfall rainfall is expected, and considering they haven't actually had too much rainfall in these areas as well, a lot of it's just going to run off, so I don't expect major flooding in this area here. But along the coastline, I mean south of Fishery Falls, it is bang time, it is for the rainfall. Some really significant stuff is expected, and as such, major flooding is expected in all of the river catchments in the Innisfail and Tully area, right up towards Fishery Falls. So major flooding is pretty much all but guaranteed at this time. So if on a moderate or a major flooding alert you have to evacuate, I'd definitely start considering putting your evacuation plan into place right now. I reckon they're going to be really late here, these agencies. I reckon they're going to be really late in calling for evacuations because, I mean, the Bureau of Meteorology is only calling for about 300 millimetres here over the next 8 days, and it's very apparent now. In fact, it's pretty much guaranteed that much more rainfall is going to come through. They also did an awful job with the rainfall forecast around the Innisfail and the Tully area over the last couple of days. So if you do need to evacuate in a flooding situation, I mean, of course, I'm not an official agency, so I'm not barking orders here. It's not a mandatory thing, but if you feel like evacuating is your best course of action, and if you've got family further inland out towards Mount Garnet or Ravenshoe, then I would definitely get out there because major flooding is pretty much all but guaranteed, especially for the Tully River and around the Innisfail area as well. Cardwell, I'm expecting you guys to be cut off until at least Thursday. Lucinda as well, you'll be cut off until at least next weekend, and that's pretty much guaranteed. I'm expecting some disastrous flooding around the Halifax, Lucinda and Ingham area. I mean, 1,000 millimetres of rainfall flowing through the rivers adjacent to Ingham and then releasing their water out around the Lucinda area, coupled with a very high tide that's expected from this low pressure system and a bunch of water being funneled ashore around the Lucinda area. If you live about 3 or 4 metres below sea level, then I do expect some coastal inundation in the Lucinda area. So start sandbagging now, start preparing adequately, and prepare for a significant impact in terms of flooding, rainfall, basically everything. Is going to be going wrong, or that could go wrong here, will go wrong in terms of the rainfall forecast. Same deal with Halifax. I know Halifax is just a small town, but they do live right on the river here, and not really protected either, so around Halifax as well, if you live there, then I'd certainly start preparing for the absolute worst here. Some really significant rainfall is expected to move through the area. Ingham as well, all but guaranteed that some major flooding is expected in the river adjacent to Ingham, and whether that reaches the Ingham town site, it certainly is going to be a significant amount of rainfall, and definitely their worst flooding event there for probably the last decade at least. I believe they had some pretty significant floods in 2016, and the rainfall that's on the forecast is resemblant of that as well. So you could basically be expecting the same thing, and considering the catchments here are already saturated from rainfall over the past 2.5 months, certainly some really significant flooding is not expected but guaranteed now around the Ingham, Halifax and Lucinda area. I know that's a really dire forecast, it's a really grisly forecast, but it's time to make the big talk here. I'm expecting that kind of significant flooding, and it's a very high chance of happening, and the only thing that could save Ingham right now is rainfall accumulations less than 300 millimetres, which is not going to happen. I mean, it's all but guaranteed that they're going to see a metre of rainfall in some of these locations around here. Same deal with Hinchbrook Island, some really significant falls are expected in that area. Townsville should escape flooding at least. They should escape the absolute worst of the flooding. There still will be some coastal inundation here and there on the high tide, but I reckon Townsville's just high enough to kind of escape the absolute worst case scenario in the flooding. The Ross River will still flow quite hard from the rainfall expected here. It's probably not going to flow up towards the moderate or the major flooding alerts, but I do still certainly expect some minor flooding in the Ross River and possibly some moderate flooding around Saturday and Sunday. And then further south down towards Proserpine, flash flooding seems to be the main risk here, but if they do pick up 600 millimetres by Sunday and Monday, the rivers around Proserpine and down towards Yalborough and Mackay will definitely be approaching the moderate or even the major flooding alerts down there. So flash flooding being the main risk south of Ayr down through Bowen, Proserpine and the Whitsundays, but certainly some moderate to major riverine flooding is also possible around the Proserpine area. Of course, if you have any questions or comments about this weather event, then please do let me know in the comments section down below, or send me an email, send me a message on Facebook as well. You can follow the Facebook page. I'm going to be releasing at least 3 or 4 updates on this weather event as this does draw out here. It certainly is a very significant one indeed, and I know this forecast does sound quite dire and quite extreme and certainly a worst case scenario, but this is what this weather event is. It is a worst case scenario. It's definitely the worst rainfall event for North Queensland since Tropical Cyclone Jasper of 2023, and take that out, we're probably talking about the worst rainfall event in the last 20 or 30 years across North Queensland. There is so much moisture that's going to come off the Coral Sea here just because those sea temperatures are so high. I mean, we're pushing 30 to 31 degrees Celsius sea temperatures here along the North Queensland coastline. They've recovered already from that tropical low that came through the last couple of days, so plenty of evaporation is expected, and in fact plenty of evaporation is guaranteed, and all of that water is going to be wrung out across North Queensland and run straight into those rivers. So significant flooding is guaranteed on top of the flooding that they're already receiving up here. It really is a worst case scenario, and this is going to be North Queensland's worst flooding event since at least Tropical Cyclone Jasper, and like I said, if you take that out of the picture, for the last 20, 30, probably even out towards the last 50 years as well. Some really significant stuff. Definitely the wettest week expected since 1974 up here. So again, make sure you are preparing adequately. You've got enough supplies. Prepare for a tropical cyclone basically as well, because those wind speeds, which we haven't talked about in this forecast update, they're also going to be up there and extending right down the coast down towards the Whitsundays as well. But yeah, make sure you've got you're prepared adequately. You've got enough supplies, especially if you're at a risk of being cut off. And in any questions or comments or concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to respond and quash those concerns as well. Subscribe if you haven't already as well. The support has been much appreciated lately, and a special shout out, of course, to the channel sponsors. The names are on screen right now, and I could not run the show without them. So again, their support is much appreciated. It's been a long forecast update this afternoon, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.